want to talk to somebody in charge. You are not fooling anybody when you say that what happened was a natural disaster. You're lying. It was not.
Bungie.
It wasn't.
Electronic Arts.
Because what's really happening is that you're hiding something out there.
Welcome to another video where I talk about a whole bunch of stuff nobody cares about, and you all listen to me so I get all this revenue. Damn it!
Pirate Man's Sky. No. No Man's Thieves. Still no. Sea of Disappointment. Well, honestly, you guys get the point. A lot of people recently have been comparing Sea of Thieves to the infamous No Man's Sky, and truthfully, there's a very good reason for this. When we look at Sea of Thieves, it truly is an ocean of opportunity. However, unfortunately, very little of that opportunity is actually realized or taken advantage of in any way, shape, or form. At least yet anyways. Frankly, one of the only things stopping this from being a literal pirate version of No Man's Sky is the lack of a procedurally generated expanding map. Outside of that detail, the games bear remarkable similarities for the broad strokes, which simulate a game experience on a surface level, but nothing really underneath to captivate players. Before anyone goes thinking this video is going to be all negativity or goes full idle chatter like a let me make something very clear. There are positive elements to Sea of Thieves, as well as No Man's Sky for that matter, even at launch, but those positive skeletal elements cannot function independently from the other necessary systems a game requires for longevity and lasting player interest. The best part about Sea of Thieves, a trait that it shares with games like No Man's Sky and perhaps Fortnite as well, is its art style. The stylized landscape, animations, items, and world at large are an aesthetically pleasing environment. Participating in high seas piracy in such a vibrant world takes on a sort of upbeat tone, far more than many other titles, and it also appeals to a very, very broad audience. Not to mention the fact that stylized graphics in this form make it a little bit easier on lower end machines for something like a laptop or, other machines that average players have access to. They make the game more accessible, and it also helps insulate the game from aging poorly when compared to some more hyper-realistic titles. However, beauty does not maketh the game. After a matter of hours, you have pretty much done everything you can in the entire game, literally. There are only 3 main mission types. There's only 2 different types of ships. There's only 5 enemy types, and 4 of them are actually just different versions of the same skeletons. The other ones are snakes, which barely even count. And all of this is layered on top of a core system that has no actual progression whatsoever. No matter how much gold you plunder, you will only ever have the same 4 weapons as everyone else, and the same 2 ships. Even a game like No Man's Sky allowed for progressive upgrades to your ship, your inventory, your carry capacity, and your various ship systems as well. Something to actually work towards in the form of your journey to the center of the galaxy as well. Sea of Thieves has an inkling of an objective seen in the mysterious stranger who talks of becoming a pirate legend or something like that after acquiring enough reputation within the game's 3 factions. But even then, the stranger keeps moving the goalposts, and he says things like get to rank 5 and then get to rank 10 and then get to rank 15, and it goes on for quite some time. All the while never opening up new missions or new gear or new ships or new loot or anything like that. Player versus player combat, on the other side of things, can be pretty fun, and in some regards, the 100% equal footing that players are always on is a good thing for PvP balance, but at the same time, is it really a good thing? Players love advantages, earned through dedicated grinding or perhaps customizing a different loadout than your enemies, which gives you an edge sometimes. And it is very hard to capture a player's interest for an extended period of time if there is no variety of combat. Picture Overwatch or Rainbow Six Siege. No one would play those games if they had only one character to choose from that had identical weapons, damage, and role responsibilities as everyone else. Sea of Thieves lacks almost all necessary features a game requires to justify a $60 price tag, and to maintain a player base for that matter. Now, I'm sure someone is going to comment about how I did do a tips video for Sea of Thieves. I have purchased the game, and you're right, I did, and I do own it, and I did do a video for it, but that does not mean that I cannot see the glaring lack of content within the game, and it does not mean that I am recommending a purchase to those who are still on the fence about it. A lot of viewers expect a diverse spread of content from me, and they play a large selection of games already. So to those who already have and are enjoying Sea of Thieves, I say all power to you. Hopefully the tips video has some value, but to those looking in and evaluating whether or not it's worth a purchase, at this stage, I strongly advise that you hold off. The climax of my playtime in Sea of Thieves thus far has been the fight against the Kraken. It was genuinely fun. I had grouped up with some players that I did not know, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, the boat stopped moving. Tentacles popped up and started wrapping around the ship, and we began fending off the monster as best we could. After a few minutes of kind of heart-racing action, it was really fun. We were wondering if we would sink or if we would even hurt the beast, and the cannons were doing anything. We were shooting at it and slicing at it, etc. The tentacles finally retreated, and I'm pretty sure at that moment we all thought simultaneously, is it over? Like, is that it? Did we do it? Like, what happens now? There was no loot, no trophy, no reputation gain. There was nothing at all. And it was at that point I started getting strong No Man's Sky vibes, like so many other content creators out there. When you get to the center of the galaxy and then poof, you just spiral out with some music and nothing happens, and there's really just that empty feeling. Now, Sea of Thieves does have definitive future development plans, and it will be expanding upon its in-game world quite a bit. Of this, there is no doubt. However, can they expand quickly enough or far enough to wipe out the memory that so many gamers now have of purchasing yet another $60 flop at launch? It remains to be seen, and one of the more positive notes that I've seen about the game thus far is its kind of intrinsic level playing field, which appeals to more casual players. And the casual audience is much larger, and they can be more forgiving at times, etc., etc. One article cites specifically a charming, quote-unquote, rock, paper, scissors system, and claims that being the richest or most reputable pirate around, in that universe, would not make your cutlass any sharper or your cannons any more powerful. And honestly, I kind of roll my eyes at this. I don't know what this guy's thinking. Like, seriously? He must be unaware that cannons actually have different shot pound weights. Some larger and some more powerful, and others smaller and weaker. Is he aware that you can have a cutlass made of bad material that dulls easily, and then you can have a cutlass that's more expensive, forged better, costs more gold, and maintains its edge for a longer period of time? Wealth and fame in a pirate world directly correlates to strength, and to strip away all of that completely only serves to drive away a very large demographic of gamers. So anyone that it's trying to appeal to with this 100% balance all the time, honestly, I don't really feel like it appeals to them. The game does offer a sandbox for cooperative gameplay, which can be extremely entertaining, I'm not going to lie. And therein lies its biggest difference from No Man's Sky, other than the fact that it doesn't have a procedurally generated map, which actually lied, No Man's Sky did, about multiplayer and isolated players in a completely separate environment. They could not interact with one another, even though they said that you could. In Sea of Thieves, the game can be played solo, but it really is a chore if we're being honest. Performing all of the different ship's responsibilities alone is stressful, difficult, and tedious in my experience, which emphasizes the need for, at bare minimum, at least one other person with which you can sail, and more likely, 2 or 3 more gamers to share the experience with. There is nothing at all wrong with a socially constructed game, and it can be great fun, but it cuts down on the number of players who will actively and regularly play. And in a game that has already taken great strides to appeal to every demographic that it can, especially more casual players as we just discussed, by stripping away massive amounts of features to then cut down on an enormous chunk of the casual audience, the solo players, by making it so thoroughly team focused, it just feels really short-sighted. In the end, it's yet another $60 game where a great many players are kind of scratching their heads and thinking, how, why, what justifies this price tag? I struggle to understand where the development time was even spent, or where the funds were allocated. The world is visually captivating and the water is great, but where did the rest of it go? I've spoken in some previous videos about the importance of ending digital pre-order practices, especially digital deluxe editions or gold editions or what have you, but this game stands as yet another testament that games nowadays just aren't fully functional products. A pirate game on the high seas could have been so much more. A bounty system, paying fellow pirates to hunt each other, a diverse selection of loot which allowed for the purchase of better hull materials, larger ships, better sails, more cannons, and even curses and creatures and myths and stuff like that. Maybe this game will get there over the coming months or even years, but when are we going to get tired of saying that? Even if the updates are free in this particular case with Sea of Thieves, when will we finally be tired of saying, well, yeah, it will get there after DLC, after we possibly pay more, after I have 2 more birthdays, and then it'll finally be a full gaming experience. We've seen it happen so often, and like the invasion of loot boxes, it's on an ever-pressing march across the entire gaming industry. I catch a lot of flack for not constantly kissing developer and publisher, But in the current industry atmosphere, I can't stomach the forced mindset of it will get better. Not when we have companies like CD Projekt Red releasing fully completed, well-polished, functional, and beautifully crafted games that are relatively uninfected with the loot box microtransaction sickness. They are not divided up and drip fed to us through a DLC straw, and they provide dozens of hours of gripping entertainment. Companies like CD Projekt Red definitively prove that the, well, we have to monetize like this attitude is just garbage and it's fake. Sea of Thieves and titles like it are releasing as shallow husks of games, and claims keep being made that they had to do this or this, that, and the other thing, right? They needed to do this or they were told to do this. And maybe they were told from a higher source, what timeline to work within or where to allocate the funds. But somewhere in the industry and somewhere in most of these companies are people, and there are a growing number of people at that make anti-gamer and anti-consumer decisions each and every day. They produce lower quality games for higher costs, they jack up the fees, and they're pushing the limits over and over and over and over. No Man's Sea of Sky Thieves is a perfect example of yet another game launching without the legs to stand. I can't say that it's bad coding work. The artwork is nice, the basic concept could, and potentially will, be awesome with time and expanded features, but if a game is going to have 1/5 of its overall content at launch, with the rest shipped out to us piece by piece for $15 each, then it should cost 1/5 of the price. Sea of Thieves earns a lot of points. They are not going down the season pass route. They're not charging per DLC. They're not attaching price tags to future content drops. And that's great. I need to emphasize that. But it's still a full price launch of something that has no depth at all and may not see any for a very long time. Nowadays, gamers simply don't have the money to fork over the amount that games are now trying to squeeze out of us, when the product they offer only gives 3 hours of enjoyment or even less. I mean, sometimes 6 hours, but whatever. If it's giving anything less than like 30 or 40 hours, that's not acceptable. That means paying full price, and then you need to go get another game after like a day or 2 or even 3. And even in the most casual of circumstances, that's still going to be like a game per month bare minimum. Gamers can't keep up with this spiraling monetization system, and it will result in a massive industry correction, which will likely drive a lot of publishers and developers out of business, or see them bought out by their more successful peers. It can't keep up this way. What do you guys think of Sea of Thieves? I've already seen a lot of comments that are less than positive about it, but at the same time, having kind of a shallow, mindless, aesthetically pleasing tropical world to hang out with friends in and sometimes have a lot of laughs, that isn't necessarily all that bad. So let me know in the comments down below. But that's pretty much it for today. If you want a pirate-themed gaming t-shirt or gaming hoodie or something like that, check this out. This design right here. The link is down in the description below, and it's being offered for sale on Teespring. Also, if you want to get more involved with Upper Echelon on our gaming forums, our social media groups, or our other community areas, the links, again, are provided in the description. And that's going to wrap it up. Thank you all for watching, and as always, have a nice night.